No way, Jose.
The following footage proves beyond any doubt that the tanks intentionally set the house on fire. It proves that the Branch Davidians were murdered. You can see that this tank has a gas jet on the front that shoots fire. You can also see the fire quite plainly. The tank goes into the house twice, and each time as it backs out, the fire at the gas jets is plainly visible.
We must all do more to recognize and look for the early warning signals that deeply troubled young people send.
Good morning. Welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. This is the Morning Dump. I am today's host, Jose Galison. Let me know real quick how I'm sounding, how I'm looking. Let me know what the connection is, because I usually move the router when I change spots that I'm doing streams from, but I forgot to today. So let me know if I'm coming in rough, and I'll try to do things like, I don't know, reduce tabs or not use video or whatever. But we have quite a bit of things to go through today. Already got someone saying sound is good. Appreciate it. Cool. We see Hey Say What Now in here. Eddie Grimm. Think Change Repeat. Murder Death Kill. Hey, well, good to see you guys here. All right. 5x5 loud and super awesome. Hell yeah. It sounds like I'm coming in pretty hot today all of a sudden. I don't know why. I had it set this before, but whatever. All right, let's while we wait for more of y'all to roll in, let's take a moment to pay the bills, to remind you guys, where to go. Nadeau Shave Co., that's where you need to go for your shaving needs. If you're tired of that razor burn, the irritation, those ingrown hairs caused by these deep penetrating multi-blade cartridges, then this is the way to go. You can go back to traditional shave. You can shave just like a grandpa used to. Whether you're shaving your whole face or edging up your beard, the single blades give you a barber-grade shave for a fraction of the price. The standard issue gives you one traditional safety razor and a box of 100 stainless steel razor blades. That's going to last a year that's the estimate's a year, but let's be real. For most people, it's going to last you probably a lot longer unless you're shaving fairly regularly. Now, if you're shaving on the daily or almost daily, you may want to consider looking at the Quarter Shave Club. That'll put you out about 25 cents per replacement blade. He's also got shave lathers, 3-in-1 body hair and face soap as well. It's great stuff. Smells good, feels good, great for shaving with. Also, is a COVID mandate refusing company. This company was born after refusing COVID mandate. So to recap real quick, this is a superior product. It gives you a better shave. It's better for your skin. It's also a cheaper product, and it comes from a company that doesn't hate your guts, doesn't want you dead. And on top of all that, you can get 10% off if you use my code Jose at checkout and let them know I sent you. With that, guys, let's go ahead and get back into it. Let's get into some content. We have some interesting stuff on the oh crap, 1 second, I screwed up switching tabs. This is why people are producers. I was trying to swap tabs and trying to do a segue at the same time, and then I fucked it up, and now I look really stupid. All right, here we go. Antiwar.com. All right, we have a few things to go through here. I guess actually we'll go through this real quick. Recently, Gaza, I was reading the article or listening to the article this morning from Dave DeCamp. You guys should listen to Dave DeCamp. It's a 5-day-a-week. He does an anti-war news with Dave DeCamp. I think it's what it might be called, or anti-war news. I forget what it's called or whatever, but it's on YouTube. He does a recap of all the anti-war stuff every day, 5 days a week at least. Sorry. So go check that out. But I was listening to this morning, and he was talking about this story, and I'm pretty sure it was from literally the soldier admitting it or something. I forget the specific of what the specific source was, but the short of it is that the Israeli forces used as the headline says, used an 80-year-old Palestinian as human shield before killing him. I mean, like I said, I listened to this morning, so just kind of a quick recap. Essentially, this guy was out and about when he was, I forget, it was they were supposed to be doing some sort of evacuation. I believe they said to Rafah, and this was an old man with a cane with his wife, I believe. And I forget what the conversation was, but then at that point they strapped an explosive around his neck. I think they had him look for something, so to inspect areas, and they told him like, hey, if he didn't do everything they wanted, they were going to blow his head off. And the whole point of the bomb was around his neck was so he didn't run off, even though he had a cane, which is a little ridiculous. And then I guess, then they ended up letting him go after he did, all the things they want to do for him, and they took off his thing, and he was essentially in like a no-go zone. So like in an area where they're essentially just blowing people away if you're not like basically anyone who's there that wasn't like IDF or wasn't IDF is getting blown away type deal. Like a zone they'd already designated, hey, don't go here or you will die. And essentially that guy was like, because he was sticking around, essentially being a literal human shield for them. He was still there, and then essentially once they left him, the story goes that then he didn't even get 100 meters before he got shot by supposedly a different group. Obviously, you got to parse this out with this is, who are the people that are claiming this? I don't have the article up, so I'm not telling you the specifics. Go check it out for yourself. But this is one of those stories you're like, oh shit. Between this and some other things, to add to the anti-war news in the Gaza front, I think they finally got to triple digits, IDF, and by that I mean they got to the point to where they have taken out, I believe, 100 Palestinians during the ceasefire, which is ironic. You're not supposed to be killing people during that time. So, but they do it anyways. So, you guys still hear me, right? Make sure there's nothing going on with my. You just guys got quiet in the chat. You guys were really a bunch of talking and just stopped for a long period of time. It was weird. All right, yeah. Also, then we have Marco on the this side of things. Marco Rubio saying Hamas must be eradicated. There were a few quotes in this that I thought were worthwhile to look at. It's not really that surprising that Rubio would have this sort of bluster. Frankly, Trump's had this sort of bluster too, so it just kind of comports with the administration, really. So there's no surprise there. It is bizarre to be calling for Hamas to be eradicated when you're in a ceasefire. I don't know if it's in this story within it or in another one, that Steve Witkoff also, I guess recently made claims that he was he was like certain that they were going to end up going to phase 2 of the ceasefire deal, which, there hasn't even been negotiations for yet, which there were supposed to be negotiations, I believe, like 2 weeks ago. And that in and of itself is a violation of the ceasefire. So we have, Israel killing like 100 Palestinians. So that's a violation of the ceasefire. And then the other example I just gave, they had the thing where they were just causing problem, where they almost didn't go through with the hostage deal recently, and they did. That was part of the reason why Hamas said they weren't going to, was because Israel had broken the ceasefire deal and not allowing certain provisions to come through. And then Israel decided to start letting him come through, and then the thing went back on as planned. Point being is at every point they are dragging their feet, but it still holds. So, or holds to the extent you can call it a ceasefire. 100 people being killed in an area that small, and to call that a ceasefire is kind of ludicrous, but it is a incredible improvement from what we were dealing with before. Well, what they were dealing with before. So yeah, anyways, here's a quote from Rubio. Hamas cannot continue as a military or government force, and frankly, as long as it stands as a force that can govern, or as a force that can administer, or as a force that can threaten by use of violence, peace becomes impossible, Rubio said. They must be eliminated, it must be eradicated. So calling for the complete elimination for Hamas, I don't even understand how that could mean anything but hostilities in Gaza. We have gone through this whole, when was October 7th? Obviously it was October 7th. I forget what year. It's been almost probably a year and a half, maybe a year and 4 months, I think. It's been a long time. And we've reported on this show, funny, I reported on Anti-Wars reporting, that Hamas is supposedly back exactly to where it was when it started. That essentially it got 15,000 new troops during the course of these hostilities. And, that's, I guess, supposedly roughly in the ballpark of what they lost. So nothing happened through all these hostilities. Hamas still exists. This idea that you're going to come roll in with military force and just get rid of Hamas, and that somehow isn't part and parcel with completely eliminating the Palestinian people. I don't know, because these people aren't moving. But either way, I don't know what this is. I mean, this is just it could just be bluster, just to these are kind of just standard boilerplate stuff that people have said for a long time anyway. So it's not really that surprising. So for all I know, this could be brinksmanship to friggin' kind of just satiate Netanyahu or whatever. Because not saying Rubio is now secretly a peacenik or something like that'd be retarded. I'm just saying that I'm sure that's kind of the position, is to posture that way. And I'm sure for Rubio that's pretty fucking easy because that's where he is anyways. So whether that's the legit or not, I don't know. It's just a bizarre situation that they would be, but whatever. Netanyahu also had some stuff to say in this. This is actually more what I found interesting, Netanyahu's statements, because if you're trying to keep track of the power politics and who's doing what and stuff, I mean, obviously we still never really know entirely what's going on behind the scenes, but it's still, I don't know, a little bit of an insight. Here we go. Oliver the Chimp Death Cult says, Inshallah. Good morning, Tyler. Good morning, LNO. Good morning, Tom33. Good morning, Bobo McHua. But yeah, let's get back into this real quick. Let me take that down. Sorry. In his remarks to the press, Netanyahu said the U.S. and Israel share a common strategy, that's in quotes, on Gaza, including when the gates of hell will open if all the Israeli hostages aren't released by Hamas, repeating a threat from President Trump. Now, I don't know. There's probably a few different ways you could take that statement right there. I wish we'd had the actual quote instead of excerpts of a quote here. But the whole gates of hell will open, the common strategy on the some sort of references, really hostages not being released. This could also kind of just be like a face saver because frankly, I don't know I still don't understand what changed. Because it really was all points seemed to point to things were going to fall through. Recently, with the whole hostage deal, there were other reports about things, on the Israel side thing. But then all of a sudden, just on a willy-nilly, even after weirdly seeming to get this rhetorical go-ahead from Trump, and then Netanyahu being able to mirror him about the whole, no, now you got to give us all our hostages, and then actually going back to the original deal, it almost feels like a face save. In that, we just need to make another statement about these hostages, they need to all come back, because it's they were kind of vague somewhat in their wording initially when this whole back and forth went on initially. So just even if they give a vagary to the whole Israeli hostage thing and that they want them all back and be very, very resolute about it, it almost makes it seem like you're restating your position and more oh, I want all the Israeli hostages back at some point within the terms of our deal, as opposed to this crazy all now before. Because for those who were following it, the way Trump worded it was no, you guys should give them all now or continue hostilities. And then Bibi, when he responded and mirrored Netanyahu a day or Trump a day or two later, he was his was much more kind of vague. It was weird. It was do you mean continue as is, or you want all? It was oddly worded. So this kind of seems almost a stepping back of the narrative to where we're going to, you give us all our hostages back, but without any specifics attached to it. So that way they can kind of, you get what I mean? A backing up of the narrative. So to save face. So that way you can be that was always kind of the position. What are you talking about? I never kind of implied I was doing something else and then, turned, switched positions for some reason. It's because a lot of this is about trying to make themselves look it's a lot of ego, I think too, but especially between Israel and U.S. You're both egotistical entities, essentially. Here we go. Okay, I want to ensure everyone who is now listening to us, this is Netanyahu, this isn't fully in quotes, so we know this isn't just an excerpt. President Trump and I are working in full cooperation and coordination between us. We have a common strategy, and we can't always share the details of the strategy with the public, including when the gates of hell would be opened, as they surely will if all our hostages are not released until the last one of them. Okay, well I guess that's a kind of more what I was getting at. That's more clear, but it still kind of comports to what I was saying. The Israeli leader also mentioned Trump's bold vision, so kind of sucked off Trump more about the vision for Gaza, about taking over. Then he's talked more about how him and Rubio can work together, but and then he made some overtures about how this gets a little bit more shifty when Netanyahu in this kind of meeting between Rubio and him kind of made the statement about you need to deal a mighty blow to Iran's terror axis, and that with U.S. support, Israel could finish the job. So now what that means, I mean, obviously we're always supporting Israel, I mean, even if it's just monetarily. So, and Israel's always trying to go after Iran. So, I mean, it's also kind of nothing new, but it's the idea that they're trying to, He's really putting forth this position of like, we're one and the same, we're completely on the same page. You know, what he's doing is great, and he thinks what I'm doing is great, and Iran sucks. And so the idea that he's kind of flowing that into that. We'll see how this works out. But I don't know. I thought this was interesting to kind of follow that. Oh, here's where I was talking about Steve Witkoff. While the ceasefire is very fragile, Trump's Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff insisted on Sunday that the second phase of the truce will absolutely going to begin. Oh, hey, Dave, if you're watching this, which I know you're not, you may want to change that. That's there's some rough grammar there. Second phase of the truce will be absolutely, you know, whatever. You guys get the point of that. Absolutely going to begin. Well, all right, that really is mind fucking me. But so far, Israel hasn't sent negotiators to discuss the second phase. And then Netanyahu's office said on Sunday that Israel was sending a negotiating team to Cairo to discuss the continued implementation of phase 1 of the deal. So the continued implementation of phase 1, so that's not even phase 2. And he said that the Israeli Security Cabinet would meet on Monday to give instructions on negotiating team on phase 2. So now they're just now getting instructions together on what it'll be Monday. Okay, today, the 17th. Okay, so I think it's like almost exactly 2 weeks from when they were supposed to have done it. Never mind, I'm wrong. I'm retarded. Under the deal, the talks on phase 2 were supposed to start on the 16th day of the ceasefire, which began on January 19th. No, I don't know why. For some reason, I was thinking February 3rd. I vaguely recalled that. Maybe I'm thinking of some other date. No, okay, never mind. It's been almost a month. So in 2 days, there'll be 2 days short of a month that they're giving instructions to a team to negotiate on this. So I don't know, lots of feet dragging, but hey, once again, I mean, I'm just glad it's still holding. So I mean, this has been tenuous all the way through. So we'll see where this goes. I really don't know. This is one of those things that could really go either way. All right, let's go back to the anti-war homepage. Let's see what else was there. There was U.S. Russia to hold Ukraine talks in Saudi Arabia. Now I'm not going to go into that. I'll just give you the quick and short of it, real quick. I mean, I'll open it just for a visual aid. But essentially, no, they're talking about meeting, and apparently it's just supposed to be U.S. and Russia. There were some statements with Ukraine that with Vladimir Zelensky being all butthurt, making some claims, kind of like, why am I not part of these? Kind of implement, like right here, never accept any decisions. Ukrainian officials said they were not invited to the talks in Saudi Arabia, so they're planning on doing these talks in Saudi Arabia. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said in an interview that aired Sunday that he will never accept any decisions between the U.S. and Russia about Ukraine if Ukrainian officials don't participate in the negotiations. Now, obviously, I think that's just bluster, and honestly, I kind of really like this. I'll be honest, from a I don't know, back this power kind of playing stuff, this like kind of ego games. This is cool. I like it. The idea that they're like, oh, well, we're just going to meet with Russia and we're not going to deal with Ukraine. Because for those who've been following this, essentially he's been kind of making, Trump's been making overtures, for a little bit now about kind of like making peace. And it seems like there's been kind of little talks here and there, little statements, kind of like, well, what would it take for this? And then Ukraine's said stuff along the lines of like, oh, well, we would need to be able to have nukes. And everybody's like, no, we're not going to be cool if you having fucking nukes. Then it was like, oh, well, what about like if we could be like a NATO? And everyone's like, no, you can't be in fucking NATO. And then it was like, well, what about like a military guarantee? Like, no. And so they're just making all these crazy demands. And so I like this. And it's like, okay, you're going to make unrealistic demands. Well, we're just going to go talk to Russia, and we don't really need you anyways. Like, I'm sure that like with the type of power that we have, the type of monetary, I don't know, play we have at hand that like over your head, like, okay, cool, fine. Don't get any military stuff anymore. That's, I mean, yeah, maybe the war technically won't be over because you might be getting money from other countries, but we're gone. You know what I mean? Like that would be great. Like that's kind of what the vibe comes from this. Now, on the other hand, though, we still have this talk about precious metals. I guess the latest is I heard on that side, it's because it sounded like Zelensky was welcoming it. So maybe this was almost like a rope-a-dope negotiation thing. I don't know. Once again, I hate trying to go into like how he's thinking about things. It's just like, 5D chess, but it kind of feels like this because the most recent thing with the Ukraine precious metals deal that's like supposedly tied to aid from us, because kind of the whole idea of Trump's, he said this in his first administration, the idea that like, oh, like, why are we doing all these things for people? Like, we're not getting anything out of it. So like, if we were going to do these things, we should get their precious metals, their oil, their whatever, which is like kind of like a more blatant thing of what everybody already thought was happening anyways. But that's kind of what he proposed to Ukraine, and Ukraine seemed receptive to it at first, And then the most recent was, as Trump said something along the lines of 50% of their entire precious metals, money, like of the entire country. And so he was like, then Zelensky's like, no. So like I was going to say, on the other hand, we have that to where they're like trying to, buy stuff from them instead of military. But that almost seems like that was kind of just fucking with him now. Like maybe that was just a like, while we're working these deals on the other end, we'll butter him up and then be like, as he's not being willing for peace, then pull both out from under his feet. And you're like, oh, just kidding. Like, we're not going to deal with you at all. And okay, cool. Like, oh, you want us military aid? Well, we need like a shitload of money from you, like a fuckload. And then like, who knows, maybe that just falls through altogether. Just kidding. We didn't want to do that at all. Or maybe you end up just giving them a better deal in the end in some way, shape or form by tying it to a precious metal or something. And now there's not I don't know. There's a lot of different ways this could play out, but either way, I do think it's pretty cool that they're like, we're going to talk to Russia and you have nothing to do with it. So that's cool. I mean, obviously the Gaza stuff, not great. Trying to think what else there is. Oh, the last thing on the anti-war front. Sorry, I'm not trying to linger on this part too much, but there was some cool things that happened. A State Department changes line on Taiwan independence from a website fact sheet. Now, this is a fact sheet, but whatever. This shows a changing of I mean, I do think someone had to be like, we're changing this, and what they're changing is. I'll just let me see how long is. Oh, it's super short. We'll read this real quick. From Yang Wei Dong in Beijing. Okay. A line saying that Washington does not support Taiwan independence has been removed from the U.S. Department of State's website. Saying that Washington does not support. Oh shit! Maybe I read this wrong. I'm retarded. I thought maybe I heard this wrong this morning, and I thought it was the opposite. A line saying Washington does not support Taiwan's has been removed. Okay. Well, shit. The website updated its fact sheet in relations with the island on Thursday, continuing to state its adherence to the One China policy, but removing the phrase, "We do not support Taiwan independence." Oh shit, well, I'm totally wrong then. This is actually bad. I was thinking, so now they're taking that out to where, so they still are stating their adherence to the One China policy, is what they're saying, which is the idea that China is one and the same with Taiwan, which frankly, I don't know, maybe you guys have different opinions. I don't like the whole, on one hand, I like the idea sort of, I guess, that like if some part of a country wants to break off and do their own thing, cool. But at the same time, we have fucking nothing to do with it. And the idea, like, there's a lot of other military components here too that like people think that if China was to, march on Taiwan and really establish their dominance, that we would get involved. And so that's the big boondoggle here. And it's like, we should have nothing to do with it. I mean, I don't necessarily want them to. Really, I don't want them to support either. I mean, like the idea that like we need them to be like, we support one China or we support this other break off entity. I don't really support either of them. I don't want either. I don't have anything to do with them. So I definitely don't want to rush to their military support in any way, shape, or form. So I mean, I'd rather they just didn't. But if they're going to go with one, frankly, I'd rather them be like, yeah, we agree with the whole one China thing because the other option is like we could get involved in some shit. So, and they've talked about getting involved in some shit in the past. So, softening this, I don't know how much I like it. We continue to have an abiding interest in peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. We oppose any unilateral changes to the status quo from either side, the updated page changes. We expect cross-strait differences to be resolved by peaceful means, free from coercion, in a manner acceptable to the people on both sides of the strait. So according to Taiwan Central News Agency, the fact sheet previously said the U.S. opposed any unilateral changes to the status quo from either side. We do not support Taiwan independence, and we expect cross-strait differences to be resolved by peaceful means. So they dropped we do not support Taiwan independence, but while saying they don't want the status quo to change. So, okay, I mean, it softens it in a way that we probably don't really like, but okay. So, all right, sorry for that. I totally thought that was something different when I heard it this morning. So, here we go. Think, change, repeat. 100%. It's not our business. I do feel like it's playing the BRICS NATO operative or narrative, perhaps. Julian says, gotta love the Gates of Hell talk like a lame metal band. Yeah. Hey, what's up, PGR? So all right, what else we got? All right. I know we spent like an inordinate amount of time on this topic yesterday, but we're going to do it again today. Sorry about that. We're covering dumb whores again. I heard a lot of people with the whole talk. I heard a lot of talk about Elon and whether he's been doing IVF with these broads. So I found an article, and this was kind of found it after yesterday, so I figured we'd go into it. And then actually, funny enough, even after that, like literally right before the show, I think it was even Top that actually shared it to me. There's another story on this. That'll be a little bit shorter. That's not a full article or anything, but it'll be interesting. I think you'll really find it. So we have two stories on this front. And I know it's like somewhat drama smut, and I know a lot of people want to dismiss it for anyone who wants to look at it any deeper, and I think it's worth looking at deeper, because it's fucking weird. I mean, even the idea that we're going to like normalize this sort of behavior, and then we're going to somehow cope because it's a fucking billionaire and go, oh, well, like, he's a billionaire, he's like super duper important. No, we should just not accept that. Like, we should shame that sort of behavior. Like, no, I love what you're doing with like certain other things, like Doge or whatever the fuck, but like, no, I don't think it's okay for you to just knock up women all around the world and just fucking, I don't know, treat them like, I don't know, as if they're like it's almost like animal husbandry. It's weird. It's like, it's bizarre. Like, it just is not I don't think it's good for the children particularly. I mean, I just do not think that's a good way. And it's not technically not my business in a certain sense. Like, I'm not saying he shouldn't legally be able to do this stuff. Like, go right ahead, but I'm going to fucking make fun of you, and I'm going to point it out, and I'm also going to be like, isn't it fucking weird that our elites are doing shit like this? Yeah, I think it's weird. They're not like you. They're not like us. Like, they're fucking weird. So these people are probably sucking down babies and fucking weird rituals. So, but let's read this. Actually, let me check in with you guys, see what you guys, somebody says, why is this even a story? He's the richest man in the world, and she is like an incredibly influential. To back up for those who don't understand, like this is kind of ties into the whole knocking up Ashley St. Clair, which on its face does sound like smut, but it is the richest man in the world that is tied in with the empire, the greatest empire in the world, pretty like into the government, pretty tightly, and he's been doing things I like too, so I'll give him that. I don't know, he's kind of got a shitload of government contracts, and now he's fucking, now we're finding out he's weirdly seems to be, busting nuts up in, seemingly influential women, like Grimes was a pretty big broad. Then you have this chick is like, I know, okay, and you said it's just female gossip crap. I disagree. I 100% disagree. This is not, I mean, it sort of is, to some extent, and it definitely feels like it. But I don't know. I think if you really think this through and like what this is bizarre. Like, what is going on here? I mean, a lot of people were jumping on these. Like, this is basically a mirror of this shit that was going on with like, fucking, yes, here we go. Think, change, repeat. Zorro Ranch, which I believe was Epstein, which is like, most of his kids are born IVF. We covered yesterday. He's like trying to put them in a compound. Some of the moms haven't gone through it. So it's almost like it really seems to me like some sort of weird op. I kind of explained it out earlier. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but whether it's intentional or not, it's still worth paying attention to. Who cares about he's pregnant? Well, he's pregnant a bunch of influential women. This woman is like tied into a pretty interesting nexus point of the conservative movement, I think. And he seems to be he's offered to Nicole Shanahan, which is which is what we covered yesterday, which is RFK's like number 2, and like one who's like a huge political donor to a shitload of people. I don't know. I just don't know how you wouldn't see even like this. It wouldn't be able to be considered an important story more than just gossip. So I don't know. I understand somewhat seeing it as gossip, but I think the implications of it's just bizarre. Even if it was not the influential people, just the idea that we have elites that are running around behaving like this, it's bizarre. And then it's an elite that is very much tied into everything. So it's bizarre. And then we have Tyler says Ashley is on TV commenting on Musk without disclosing a relationship and tied into the conservative ink. Yeah. So, I don't know. I kind of get I get the knee-jerk reaction to think it's just smut and to write it off and go, I don't care. Why does anyone care? Oh, why does anyone comment about this? But I don't know. I think when you really think about it, you're like, this is weird. Like, and also just kind of like, what the fuck is this dude? Who is this guy? This guy is weird. So, yeah. Oh, and then someone said Israeli intelligence. That exactly. That's I'm gonna get into that too. That's the other story, sort of. Not exactly. I'll clarify in a minute. So all right, let's get into this. But if you don't like it, hey, I put for those who aren't aware, I put timestamps on the morning dumps after the fact. So I understand if this isn't everyone's cup of tea. Just jump to the next timestamp. But all right, let's go. Someone says aggressive agreeing. Unless Elon's engineering team provide the genes, all these kids getting are Asperger's and slut tendencies. Yeah, I mean, you see the women he picked too. Yeah, like Grimes and then Ashley St. Clair. Like, yeah. So yeah, and someone says podcast topics need some clickbait. Yeah. All right, let's yeah, this is what the people want. All right, Elon Musk's babies were conceived via IVF and surrogacy. Is it the future of reproduction? Now, once again, to like this kind of goes into how this gets even weirder, because like a lot of us seem to have this idea that he's just like this rich man and he's just knocking up women. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe it's like more disconnected and weird than that, and that he's just literally giving them his jizz. Because like I think most men can kind of wrap their head around the idea of some man who's like a millionaire or a billionaire or whatever, and is like, oh, I'm just gonna like have sex with lots of women. Like you totally get, and then even then you might be like, well, it might be cool to knock up some of these at the time because kids are cool. I could see that, but then now if you're like literally like now you're just throwing the sex part out and just the kids, something's weird about that. All right. Musk family engineering, advances in science and technology coupled with modern medicine has impacted the way in which we look at life. Reproduction is no exception. It is no secret that the most prolific innovator on the planet, Elon Musk, took an engineering approach to reproduction, and his first 5 boys came into his world via IVF, and the last girl was delivered using a surrogate mother. Now, the Tesla mogul and his former wife, author Justine Wilson. Okay, now this was his first wife, so I will give him some to that, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, all this IVF. Well, this was his first wife, so it's something about that's characteristically different. Maybe there could be some sort of issue with it. Now, if you were IVFing randoms, like if he's IVFing, I don't know, I forget, there was some other chick that's kind of essentially basically a random. They're not really like a relationship. Same deal with Ashley St. Clair. Like it just seems like he's just explicitly just knocking these girls up. Now that would be interesting. With a wife, I feel like you can kind of understand perhaps why. But either way, I don't know. Let's keep going because I know a lot of people have been running with the IVF thing. So maybe we'll read this and see that, I don't know, maybe it's just bunk. The Tesla mogul and his former wife, author Justine Wilson, welcomed son Nevada Alexander Musk in 2002. Nevada died of SIDS at only 10 weeks. Oh, sad. After losing their firstborn, Musk and Wilson turned to IVF to grow their family. I wonder, maybe that's another reason why they went IVF too. Like maybe there's some sort of genetic component. Because I think you can somehow, I don't know enough about IVF to really talk authoritatively at all about this. But I think there's ways to somehow avoid that sort of shit with IVF. I don't know. But SIDS is one of those things, I don't even know how you would isolate that to anything genetic. So I'm kind of talking on my ass. She gave birth to twin sons Griffin and Xavier Musk in April 2004. The couple also used IVF to welcome triplet sons Kai, Saxon, and Damien in January 2006. Later on, Musk began dating singer Grimes, who gave birth to their son XAEAX11. Still so retarded. Earlier in March, Grimes revealed that she and the SpaceX founder had welcomed their first daughter, Exa Dark Citarael Musk, via surrogate. Okay, so they went surrogate here. So that's a little bit weird. And there are claims that Elon and Amber Heard had a legal battle around the cryopreserved embryos. Oh shit! So he got, because I forgot he had dated Elon or Amber Heard for a while. Jeez, man, that's a weird connection. So he's dating that psycho too. Man, I can't believe he got out of that unscathed. That's pretty wild. So they had a legal battle around the cryopreserved embryos. So that's weird. In recent weeks, rumors surfaced that he had 2 more kids with the board member of OpenAI, an executive at Neuralink. Sex of the babies was not disclosed. Considering how busy he is, business ethics of such relationship, and the fact that there are 2 babies, there's a chance that he just served as a donor. All right, yeah, because I remember this too, and I'm pretty sure they like kind of framed this as almost like a business relationship. It's very bizarre. So yeah. While this approach raises many ethical questions, including were his babies selected to be male at the pre-implementation stage? While there are regular attempts to build more an ethical framework for allowing sexing for non-medical reasons, sex selection is illegal in many countries. We recently observed one of the IVF boys taking matters into his own hands, changing both name and gender and distancing himself from her father. Ugh, it's gross. Forbes says a very brave move, deserving recognition and support. No, I completely disagree. If anything, I think this is an outgrowth of this sort of fucking behavior. That like, oh, I'm just gonna fucking just spread my seed everywhere, no fucking willy-nilly. Like, no, I don't know, crazy idea. Maybe you should be involved in your children's lives. I don't know. It's very rewarding. I really like it. It's a great thing. My kid has a soccer game today, and I'm super excited. Like, I don't know. And part of that, like, it makes it richer by being with them every single day. So as much as possible, pretty much. Elon Musk is not the only one opting for IVF instead of the traditional approach. Several people in my network recently told me that they chose IVF. Okay, blah, blah, blah. All right, well, I'll be honest. This one is kind of shit. I'll be honest. This doesn't look like the IVF. Scrolling through this to see if there's anything on it. Most is kind of like infographic on IVF. All right, you know what? The rest is all about IVF and surrogacy and why it's so great. Still scrolling through to see if there's anything that actually confirms it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go with the whole IVF claim, kind of bunk. So let's go with it. I mean, like, and by that I mean there's obviously he did use IVF in his first wife. There seem to be implications possibly he did in maybe some of the later ones, like the one chick that was like his business, like he worked with her essentially. She's like, actually, she's got like really dark hair and really piercing blue eyes. And you know her if you saw her, if you've ever seen her. Very striking. Like almost pretty, but kind of weird looking. But either way, there's implications that maybe they had IVF. So it looks like, I don't know, I wouldn't put much into it because there's people thinking, unless more comes out about, like, say Ashley St. Clair says, yep, they did just, that they just fucking, yeah, did this give a yick? Yeah. No, well, I was debunking this. Everyone's pointing the IVF. I would say this would be weirder if it is IVF. So I think it's worthwhile looking into. Now, you guys know, then when people go, hey, IVF, I don't know, it looks like it's a little bunk. So, seems like dude doesn't bang at all. IVF can be used to look for / prevent some defects, he says. His firstborn died. Yeah, so maybe that would make sense. Allegations are that one of his 12 to 13 kids was naturally conceived. Now that would be weird. But now this article that's supposedly, almost clickbaity, being like, oh, IVF, implying that they were, they were. The first 5 were with his first wife, which, I don't know. I don't think it's that crazy. So there you go. To see, yeah, there we go. All billionaires and geniuses are weird. I agree. That doesn't mean we can't tell them to stop being a weird faggot. That's what we're doing. Like, hey, man, stop this shit. Fucking take care of your kids, you fucking weirdo. Best proof of no IVF with Ashley is the dispute now. No way they do IVF without a prior full agreement. I still think maybe there was some sort of agreement. I know you think maybe there wasn't. It could be that they gave her a bullshit contract that was completely unenforceable. I would think she would have lawyers that would be able, figure out that's bullshit. But hey, what's up, black guy? But yeah, it gave me the ick once it became just an infographic on IVF and surrogacy, or an info article. Like, I don't care. And then also realizing this is complete smut. That was a clickbait article, and that I think a lot of people have run with and are now like, oh, all of his kids are IVF. Now, if someone has an article or something that actually seems to really show that, I will gladly go into it. But that doesn't seem to be the case. All right, last thing on this side of things. Now, this I've seen you in the, was it Think, Change, Repeat? I know it's you, Ashley. I think your name's Ashley, right? Yeah, I've been on your show before. But I've seen you talking about the whole Israeli angle, and here it is. This seems to be the extent of it. I've heard other people make claims that they essentially fed-jacketing Ashley St. Clair as Mossad before. I don't know what they used to support that, aside from maybe her working at Babylon Bee, because, they've definitely been super-duper, overtly, weirdly pro everything Israel does in the past couple of years. I don't know if there's anything actually, resolute with actual legit connections that we could look at, but this seems to be what I've seen that I would say enters into like, okay, well, this is something, but even this isn't conclusive. This is from WikiLeaks. Musk Odalisque, which I don't even know what that fucking word means. Ashley St. Clair is managed by PR strategist Brian Glicklick, who previously received $598K, which, by the way, real quick, the is managed. We don't have to prove that out. His name was on the press releases. And now the other part that maybe you might want to have to prove out is this other thing. But anyways, who previously received $598K from Israeli security company Mer Security and Communications Systems, at that time reportedly to help Congo avoid human rights sanctions. And St. Clair says she's Jewish. Which I don't really know what the fuck the point of that is, other than it's like, okay, it's weird that she does say she's Jewish. Okay. But here we go. We can see, if you go to the article, which, we can click on it real quick. Here you go. This is, I guess this Glicklick guy worked and got basically $600,000 from an Israeli firm to help Congo skirt new sanctions. So, and I guess if you go into this article, it'll show that that's the case. So interesting. Now, I will say, I know a lot of people are running with this and probably saying, oh shit, she's definitely Mossad confirmed, she's a glowy. And I mean, far be it for me to like defend her because I don't really know her, nor do I. Frankly, I don't know. My impression, I don't really care for her generally. I don't know. Maybe I'd meet her and she's great, but generally my limited interactions or viewments of her, it's not something I really particularly care for or need. But I mean, this doesn't. I mean, like this is. I'll admit, it glows. It glows. It is clearly a solid. Like if I was putting together a little map, a pair of power mapping or whatever, this goes on the map. But it's nothing conclusive. I just feel like, keep in mind, I know everyone keeps talking this down, like she's not that big a deal. This is what Ashley St. Clair has like something like over 1 million followers on Twitter. She is like kind of the, pretty much like part of the Babylon Bee. I don't really know what role she plays. I don't think I've ever listened to a Babylon Bee episode. I don't think I've ever clicked on an article. I've seen the links. I mean, some of the headlines make me laugh occasionally. But I know like she's a big part of that. So she's pretty much part of the team. So she's not running it, but she is like kind of the generic, the hot chick, like the token hot chick. Like that's what she at that entity, which that entity is pretty fucking clicked up with a lot of shit, like with Daily Wire, with like all these major media entities, which then also have some implications of shady dealings with other like countries like Israel. So it's not that crazy. But anyways, my point being, I kind of lost my thread there. Point being is this is a dot in the map. I don't think it's conclusive. I don't really know what kind of overlap you get with like PR people of this level, because this PR strategist, as I just kind of point out, the level that this chick is at, she is at like a high level. Yeah, you would have a PR person likely if you're this big, and your PR person's probably a pretty high profile PR person at that point because you're pretty high profile. Now, what is the overlap between high profile PR people that do high profile PR for, say, countries? I have no idea. I mean, it could be almost non-existent, and maybe this is a solid indicator that, like, she glows like the sun, or at the very least, the Babylon Bee glows like the sun, because I would assume the Babylon Bee provided this for her. But, I mean, it also could be a huge overlap. I have no idea. I also have no idea how much these people typically get paid for their services and things like this. I mean, doing some sort of major PR work for a literal country, not crazy. You would get, like, in the realm of, like, $500,000. That seems pretty reasonable for that high level of work, but I don't know. I mean, it's definitely a point. It's a node to be noticed, to take note of and remember. But definitely, I wouldn't use this. And if you're running with this and going, she's definitely a Mossad agent, then you could end up looking really fucking stupid later. So I'm just throwing that out there because I'll admit it glows. This glows. This is weird. This is a weird little connection, but I don't know. It could be completely insignificant. It could be super significant. I don't know. I don't work in high profile PR. I mean, if any of you guys do, feel free to provide me more information because I don't know. So let me see. Boop, boop, boop. Let me see. Let me do. All right. Let me see. Boop, boop, boop. Sorry. Who would have guessed someone who names their kids a number would be an absentee dad? Yeah, right. Hey, it's the link I was talking about yesterday in the comment section of Close to. Glad I could participate. Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. The WikiLeaks thing. They made her the connect with her agent, I believe, is what I believe is Ashley saying. Think, change, repeat. Yeah, that's kind of what I would assume. I didn't know that to be the case. I'm not surprised. That's exactly kind of what I assumed. I would assume if you're like a high level person of that one and you're like part of like a sub part of an entity like a Babylon Bee or something, I don't think it's that crazy that they'd be the one who provided it for you. Because I mean, your PR is their PR at that point. Elon is a honeypot targeting Mossad honeypots. Yeah, I mean honestly, unironically, that's kind of how whether it's intentional or not. I mean that's what I've mentioned multiple times. I'm not even saying he's doing this intentionally. I just think it's interesting that like also even just to think about like how does this play out in the future? If you have this super influential guy busting nuts all over the place and super influential people, like what I mean, that's kind of like whether you mean to or not, that is quite a way to make an empire. And or not an empire, I'm not saying like literal, but like, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, what does that do? I mean, is it like from like, I know we cover on this show, like influence operations, we cover blackmail operations, stuff like that. So it's like, I don't know, is this a different method to do it, whether it's intentional or not? I know it's still an interesting thought. I don't know. I mean, not saying anyone should do it. I'm obviously saying no, like, this is kind of fucked up to do, but I don't know if you're playing the long game, if you're some sort of like some sort of entity that has some sort of plans for the future, I don't know. Not the worst idea. Let me see. She used to work for them, but I've seen today seems to imply that she doesn't work for them at the time. Babylon B. I don't know. Yeah, some of the statements and some of the stuff I read, it did seem to be a little bit counter to what Babylon B would want to say, but I don't know. The other weird thing is a sex laptop handle she had as an e-girl, lying about her age, etc. Just bizarre. Yeah, I don't know enough about that, but I guess she did some skanky shit when she was younger. I don't know. All right, here we go. I think it's also important because these people are now lifted up as conservative influencers, so at least moving the Overton window, which, yeah, I talked about that a little bit yesterday because then a lot of people point out, like, well, I'm a Republican, not a conservative, like a lot of women trying to have, like, women empowering moments on Twitter and stuff. And it's like, well, okay, sure, cool for you, but, like, we're talking about her, and I don't know if she said that before, but she's part of the Babylon Bee, like, part of her public image. I feel like it kind of comes like I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something there. As I said, I don't watch them enough, but my impression is they're a Christian conservative parody publisher, and they do a podcast as well. And she works for them, wrote books for them, I believe, and like I done stuff for them, and it's like part of them, I believe, on their show. Like, so I would assume her public image is probably supposed to be conservative Christian, something in that line. So either way, whatever. This could also be an a trial balloon to see how this type of news is received in the conservative community. As you say, who really knows the point of this? Yeah, I mean, even then, like, even if he isn't, there's anything sinister, like, there could be other Epsteins in the world, and Epstein was doing literally exactly this. Well, not literally. He was actually doing worse. It was weird. So it's not that crazy that, if, like, this becomes normalized, and now they just aren't normalizing the other shit. So, I don't know. Whatever. Let's keep moving on. They are tracking / mapping narrative dissemination networks. So yeah, because yeah, that's kind of like narrative dissemination wise. If you look at like where this dude's been busting his nut, I mean, like those kind of map pretty well with that. I mean, like hell, I mentioned Amber Heard. Seemed like he tried to do that. I mean, it looks like he dodged a bullet there. You got Grimes, which is like a not major, but apparently she's pretty big. Didn't know fucking nothing about her before him, but apparently she's pretty big. So she's in the music scene. Then you got her in the conservative scene. So I know Shanahan would have been a big one had he pulled that off, but he seems to try to. So I don't know. Could be complete bunk, but either way, it's just fucking weird that they're acting this way, and I think it's worth taking note of. All right, what else we got? All right, let's watch this video together. I thought this was particularly well. Actually, I haven't watched it yet. I don't know why I was. I think maybe I mixed up in my head with something else. But let's watch this. This is a clip that's gone around, so I just kind of wanted to give my thoughts on it. I've seen people saying something about the Holocaust being caused by free speech, so I was like, all right, I'm going to save this for the show, and we'll watch this together.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship was specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, this is like, man, if you got me being on like Rubio's side, man, you must have said something really fucking stupid. I mean, it's pretty fucking stupid. I don't really know. I mean, other than laugh at that, yeah, I don't know how you would say, especially like this too, like, man, wow. I mean, if this was planned, if someone gave her that script, man, they really fucked that woman because, yeah, and then to also deliver it, this is almost like borderline like fuck you, San Diego, like a type what was that, Anchorman, like just reading it like oopsies, shouldn't have read that, because it's like, can you imagine saying this to someone that you know is going to immediately like, what? Like, you know how this is going to be received, and you like this is clearly retarded. I don't know. This is what an insane spin that the Holocaust was caused by lack of free speech. Man, and the complete irony there is that if you actually kind of somewhat know your World War II history, it's literally like this is what caused like that sort of like, spinning of the like, your free speech is, infringes, and like this sort of like authoritarian, like that mentality, this. And then also people see this shit and they start looking for a scapegoat. And then a certain group of people. Now, I will say that little diatribe that he gave, I think is way too overly simplistic, but whatever. For a 15-second kind of status quo, whatever. But man, that is wow, that is something. Yeah, I don't really have much to add to that one. I saw everyone, figured I'd share it with you guys. That is supremely retarded. That is something to behold. It's quite I just can't even track. It's like I'm befuddled that it's like the Holocaust was caused by free speech. All right, yeah, I guess maybe in some weird way you could say that because certain people had the free speech to push things, even though it wouldn't be free because technically they're only being allowed to say certain things. Whatever. All right, this is retarded. I'm not going to dwell anymore on this shit. Let's check it with you guys, see what you guys have to say. That's a crazy news segment. Man, yeah. Said I couldn't understand what that woman said, but I'm pretty sure Rubio was about to confirm the lampshade story. Yeah. Someone said Hitler was a Zionist. He only aided Jews who want to stay. Without him, no Israel, no war and terror. Now, I don't know about that degree, but there is something with was it the Irgun or was it the Stern Gang? I forget. One of the groups, it was either Irgun or Stern Gang, that there was I know as Sam Tripoli talks about it a lot, there was like a meeting of the minds between the Nazis and them at one point, and I think it fell through, if I recall correctly. But I believe they were trying to do something along those lines. So they were trying to work some sort of deal to kind of be like, okay, we'll get some of the Jews out, and like, I don't know, we'll do a little bit of dare here and scare some of them to the leave. But it did seem to be, I don't know if I'd say he was a Zionist per se, but they definitely did have an alignment of goals. Because at that point in time, for those who know their Zionist history, they were super duper, come on, everybody, come on to Israel. Like the whole concept of the diaspora is the Jews around the world. Like they were trying to bring in the diaspora. And there's always been a conflict within Zionism in general about how they want to interact with the diaspora, because it's kind of a central tenet that they know it's very much a big deal that the diaspora gets there, or that they have people. So now then some are hostile to the diaspora, some have different means about getting them to there, or some have ideas that like maybe it's okay to have diaspora. Either way, point being is they had an alignment of goals. So yeah, Hitler wanted the Jews out, and so did the Jews in Israel. They wanted the Jews out. They wanted them to come to Israel. Hitler was I'm pretty sure, I don't know if there's quotes or what, but I believe he said things or something that was kind of like, yeah, I mean, he literally tried to, I'm going to get a strike for this one. He tried to like give them away essentially. And by the way, that is not in any way an endorsement of this at all. Like, I am not, we've been talking about Israel, Gaza for a while. Like if Israel was like, please take them. I wouldn't like the Palestinians. Like, they kind of are. I'm still not like saying like, oh, that's cool, they kicked them out. I'm just saying in relation to this point, and like he didn't necessarily want to take them. He would have preferred them to move. And that's just, honestly, another thing I might get strike for, because I'm kind of making the exact parallel. That's kind of the exact same thing with Israel. Like, they don't necessarily want them to die. They would prefer them to just leave. But they frankly kind of don't care, honestly. They care in the sense that like, it'd be a lot easier if they just left. So they prefer that. But they also, it's not that big of a deal to them if they have to kill them, if they're able to do it, kind of deal. Yeah. Your channel's God Works, brother. Hell yeah. Thank you, Angelo Gerardo. Is this in this journo CIA? Yeah, probably. You'd have to be pretty retarded. So I had this, let me see. I had this bullet point in the overall propaganda narrative that free speech is dangerous. I hate these clips because it also presents the two acceptable sides of the narrative that only the Nazis were the criminals here, and that World War II was not a psyop to create Israel. Yeah, that's why I kind of did make a point to kind of point out that like he did just kind of give a goy slop version of it there at the end in response to her retarded thing. So yeah, you just kind of got both. You got super retarded anti-status quo, and then you got like kind of retarded status quo on one side. Someone said they were training German Jews to kibbutz before they left. They want them to succeed so they wouldn't come back. Really that happened? I don't know what you're talking about. You're going to have to tell me what you mean. Ken Burns did a documentary, but no other country's taken the Jays. Yes, that's once again, not saying it's okay, but I'm not saying it because, if you can genocide people, if you're like, hey, does anybody want these? Nobody else want them? Okay, well, I'm just going to kill them. Like, that doesn't make it okay. Yeah. All right, let's get out of here. Let's get to the next story. There was a Ebola scare recently. I thought this was interesting, worthwhile. And I didn't see any major reporting on it, but whatever. I figured I guess maybe now I'm the scare agent. But I just thought it was worth mentioning, because you never know. This could be something that later they point to confirm some other. So it's kind of worth being abreast of these sort of things. So this is short anyways. A suspected Ebola exposure at a Manhattan urgent care facility had 2 patients rushed to the hospital by emergency workers in hazmat suits Sunday. So this was yesterday. But the infection may be norovirus. Sources said the patients were transported from a city MD on East 125th Street and Lexington Avenue by first responders wearing hazmat suits, law enforcement sources said. Officials feared Ebola infections because patients had traveled from Uganda and had symptoms consistent with the disease, but no test that confirms its presence, the source added. So, okay, so just now you guys know, if anyone runs with some sort of Ebola scare later, that's what we got for so far on this one. There was no test confirmed its presence. They think it might be another one. We don't know anything. So if there's more to come out on that, we have at least got the initial story and we're tracking that. Now let's move to the next story. This is fucking wild. Now this is super duper early in the story. Really all we have is basically what the claims that are happened. So obviously there's a lot that can change in this, but let's watch this.
Caught on camera on Miami Beach, 2 men trying to get help after dozens of shots were fired at their car while they were driving. Local 10's crime specialist Bridget Matter is live on Miami Beach tonight with the latest on the arrest made. Bridget.
We're told by police that one man shot off at least 17 rounds at 2 other men that were in a car, hitting one of them, grazing the other. He was then arrested soon after that. This is a mugshot for 27-year-old Mordecai Braffman. He's accused of shooting at 2 men in Miami Beach Saturday evening. Police say the suspect passed the 2 victims in another car before he got out and started shooting off Alton Road. Police say this was an unprovoked attack. The 27-year-old shooting off 17 rounds. One of them hit one of the men in the shoulder. This is surveillance video of the men trying to get help. If you look closely, you see the passenger with a gunshot wound and blood on his shirt. The other man was grazed. Police add that when the suspect was arrested, he told detectives, quote, he saw 2 Palestinians and shot and killed both. The victims and the suspect did not know one another. So I am told by one of those victims that the other who was shot in the shoulder, he has been released from the hospital, and that suspect is facing a second-degree attempted murder charge.
By the way, I want you guys to thank me for my service, because the other option, I found another video, and then I explicitly found another one, because the other one was a fat black chick who really had awful delivery. And these were 2 pretty girls with a nice delivery. So you're welcome. I made this more pleasant for you. So yeah, I'm not supporting no DEI shit unless it's for hot Latinas like this chick. But yeah, this is a wild story. Got a little bit more in it. This is funny enough. Now I'm going. Ironically, the source with the fat black chick actually had a better article. So we're going to watch the article of that one. So we'll just do the video for the hot one and the article for the fat black chick. Although I don't know if she wrote it, but and I might be being mean. A man's facing charges following accusations that he opened fire on a vehicle in Miami Beach this weekend after he saw 2 men in who he thought were Palestinians. Arrest document said Mordecai Braffman, 27, was arrested, charged with 2 counts of attempted murder. At 9:30 p.m., surveillance video captured Braffman's truck traveling south and making a U-turn at 48th Street, where the victim's vehicle was stopped just north of 48th in the left lane. So he did a U-turn. I guess he saw the point. He drove by and stopped directly in front of them in the right lane, where he left his vehicle and shot at the victim's vehicle 17 times. So he got out of the car, shot at him 17 times, unprovoked, striking both victims as they passed him. Arrest document said. So this is just off the arrest documents. I mean, it's such a bizarre story that I just struggle to believe this is all there is to it. One victim was shot in the left shoulder, while the other's left forearm was grazed. None of the according to the arrest documents, the victim's statements were consistent with the surveillance video, and none of the 3 people involved knew each other at the time of shooting. Braffman then drove to another area where he was then taken into custody by responding officers. At the request of Braffman's attorney, he was not interviewed about the incident. However, the arrest document noted that while he was in custody, Braffman spontaneously said that while he was driving his truck, he saw 2 Palestinians and shot and killed them both. Okay, that's weird, especially the detail that we got there, that while he was in custody, he just spontaneously said, I don't know what they mean by spontaneously, like without being asked or provoked to, for any sort of response. So bizarre. All right, that's all there is to that article. I have a little bit more in the story, though, because I found and then I found a thread that had more information on it. This is from Kashif Chaudhry. I guess this person looked at their their Facebook as well, and says, ironically, the victims were Israeli tourists. And right after being shot, they took to social media shouting death to Arabs. Can't make this up. As a result of anti-Palestinian hate and indoctrination that sadly runs deep in Israel and pro-Israel communities in the U.S. So to remind you guys, this happened in Miami Beach, Florida. But yeah, you can see the Facebook Facebook stuff here. And this is from, you can even see it's in Hebrew. It had to be translated. So this is from the people who got shot. It says, my father and I went through a murder attempt against anti-Semitic background. They tried to murder us in the heart of Miami, but the creator of the world is with us, so he didn't go. I want to say thank you to everyone for their support and is not taken for granted with Israel. Live. Death to the Arabs. Live. It says live, and then it has a little Israeli flag. Death to the Arabs. Hands, pray hands. Now, I don't know what to make of this. This is so bizarre. So apparently the people who got shot were actually really Israelis. So I hope someone keeps an eye on this story because, I really think maybe there might be more to this. So I'm sorry, I was just looking at this thread too because these pieces weren't here earlier. So thought maybe there might be more in there. I don't see anything and scrolling through. So this is very, very early. If anyone sees more information on this, please tag me in it because I really feel like there's got to be something more to it. So, really, you're really just telling me this goofball just for no reason. Saw two people he thought were Palestinian, did a UE, pulled out of his car, shot at him, didn't really do any actual serious damage. And then he left, and then come to find out they weren't even Palestinians, they're Israel. It's just bizarre. I mean, maybe we'll find out more in the future. We'll see. Send them all the Gitmo. Yeah, for sure. Let me see. Humans do very little without provocation. Yeah, it's a bizarre. Bobo says, Jose, thank you for your cervix. I do my best. You can have my cervix anytime. Just being silly. You can't have my cervix. Damn it. I clicked on the wrong tab. All right, I'm trying to get back to you guys. Speaking of germ theory and if China gave us woohoo, could German be responsible? I don't know what you're talking about there. Physiognomy. I definitely thought in my head saying something about physiognomy. So maybe I said it out loud or not, but yes, definitely physiognomy comes in play here. Look at that fucking goofball. So this is bizarre. This is a bizarre story. I see Bobo referring to earlier, saying that Hitler wanted the Jays to leave and or help them to resettle Palestine. Oh, you're saying that like you didn't believe it because I remember you said earlier, like, oh, really? Yeah, really. I mean, I don't know if I'd say that he. I don't know if maybe you could debate on the framing of that, but basically, yes. So yeah. I can't give you. I mean, I'd have to look and find some actual sources more on that. But all right, let's. Bizarre story. So I don't know. Someone says, "What don't they lie about?" Which is kind of like, is there some other weird angle here? Like this is just such a bizarre story, but I can't even see what the angle would be if this is something more than just someone shooting at people. It's just bizarre. It's one of those ones I can't really wrap my head around. So. All right, we're done with that story. Let me see. All right, here we go. By the way, this will be the last story before I get into a long Dutroux thread, which for those who've been with the show for a while know what Dutroux is. The Dutroux affair really fucked up. I'm just letting you guys know this so that like it's like stomach churning stuff. So, I mean, and some pretty violent stuff, and it's kind of long, so I'm just letting you, and it's also like a long thread I'll be reading, so I'm just warning you guys, just full disclosure, I'll be going to that a little bit, so just Belgian X-Files, yeah, it's a fucked up shit, like the worst of the worst, like when I say stuff and laugh and go, ha ha ha, like, oh, these lizard people are, slurping down children and, fucking in satanic rituals to Moloch, you're like, okay, well, like, that's what's running through my head when I'm, like, in fucking the horror that I'm thinking about when I say those sorts of statements, and then I laugh to distract from the pain. That's what the Dutroux affair is. It is fucked up, super fucked up. And it's one of those things where the Dutroux affair, once you start to wrap your head around that, you really realize, like, oh, shit. You start to see what this whole entity is, and you're like, holy fuck. But all right, this story kind of gets at this a little bit too. I vaguely recall reading about this in one of the multiple OKC bombing books I've read. But this is from Tanya Yiki. What's up, Tanya? If you're watching, I've had her on the show before. She is the widow of Terrence Yiki. I love Tanya. She's great. Definitely go give her a follow. She's the bee's knees. She said not all would advance within a month of the Fred Jordan interview, which Fred Jordan was, I believe, the medical examiner for Oklahoma City. He was a medical examiner for Trenadu, at least, for Kenneth Trenadu. I believe he was for Yiki as well, if I recall correctly. But anyways, OKBOMB prosecutor Ted Richardson would be found dead on the steps of the church adjacent to the bombing site with a shotgun blast to the chest. Ruled self-inflicted, wearing a t-shirt reading, "Nameless Saints, we give our thanks." Tanya's saying she also gave an interview with Phyllis Williams during that time, but it was mysteriously pulled by Fox 25. So let's read this. Prosecutor's body discovered, this is an excerpt from the article, attorney who prosecuted criminal cases from Oklahoma County and the U.S. Attorney's Office in Oklahoma City died of apparent suicide Tuesday. Ted A. Richardson was 49. Services were pending with Han Cook. The OKC resident was an assistant U.S. attorney in the criminal division of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Oklahoma. His body was found Tuesday near a Northwest Oklahoma City church. He died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, an Oklahoma City police spokesman said. The Oklahoma City native was a 1966 graduate of Putnam City Schools. He graduated from Westminster College in Fulton, Missouri in 1970 and earned a law degree from the University of Oklahoma in 1975. He was Oklahoma County Assistant District Attorney from 1975 through 1981. After 2 years in private law projects, he became an Assistant U.S. Attorney in 1983. But yeah, no, so this was a dude that was likely involved in the cover-up of the Oklahoma City bombing, given his position. And then this dude ends up with a shotgun blast to the chest. Shotgun blast to the chest. Just throwing that out there. I don't know. It's not the most common method of suicide. I mean, I guess there are shorter barrel shotguns. I don't know what the rule is on how short your barrel can go for a shotgun. So I don't know if you got like the shortest that's legally available, if that actually would be. But generally speaking, shotties are a little too long to do that without having to use your toes or something crazy. And if you are going to do that, you do it to your chest. I mean, you'd think you'd do it to your dome. Like you have an easier time reaching your head with a shotty than you would to your chest. You know, I know it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. Either way, I just thought it was worthwhile mentioning. I'd forgotten about this one. It wasn't really a story that I committed to memory too well. Definitely something probably worth looking into more at some point. Let's pop back in with you guys. Let's see what you guys have to say. It's a worldwide toxic spiderweb with the Dutroux affair. Exactly, which is pretty much the thesis of the theme of the next episode, where me and Austin are going back on Tinfoil Hat. We're going back on next week, I think, next Wednesday or something. Part of the reason why I'm doing a Dutroux, doing this Dutroux reading, and I'll probably do a bunch of these in the next week or so, is because, for one, it's a big part of the concept that we're working with for the Tinfoil Hat episode, and then on top of that, I'm actually going on William Ramsey's show to talk about the Dutroux affair. So kind of got to church myself up, and then whatever, it works out both ways. When I go on these big shows, they go, oh, cool, they talked about this thing. Where can I find out more? Right here. We talked about it here. All right. Tanya's amazing, kind, and willing to have a conversation and share her thoughts. Much love, Tanya. Yes, she is the great. She's dope. You got that crazy firearm, as the ATF lead describes it, for the 14 Remington 870 with the birds, Raptor grip. Yo, you need to get with Kurt Metzger. Dude's been tearing up the podcast. I've put replies. The way that this works, I need you guys. I really, really do want Kurt Metzger on the show. He would be great. But what I need is you guys to, on social media, say, hey, Kurt, go on No Way Jose with Jose Galison and tag me and stuff like that. And then I will use my big account to retweet it. That's the way to do it. That's the way you get the guests. You get the audience. The audience does it. And then you see people say they want it. If you really want it, you do it, buddy. But I've reached out. He just has such a huge account that you probably just didn't even see it. I don't know. I can tell you, I only have like a 10,000 follower account, and it's still I miss so much shit. I can only imagine. I think Kurt's in the few 100,000, I think. So I can't even imagine. It's almost annoying when you have friends in that range. You almost have to message them or multiple times or to get there, because they would just they have such a fucking big account. They miss so much shit. So, all right. No, that's enough shit talking. All right, guys, we're going into the Dutroux affair. I'm just a big old warning. It begins now. It's going to be a little bit lengthy, so we'll probably be here for a little while. So I found this from IRC_NIC on Twitter. They guess they're everything: Dutroux, Brabant Killers, Stay Behind Networks, General Belgian Weirdness. Check out the Belgian X-Files at Ghost Story Send, he says. But this is I found this. I thought this. I assumed this would probably be a good place to book. I skimmed through it, so I'm in no way saying all this is legit. But we're going through stuff. There's a thread of threads, mostly about Belgium, the Dutroux affair, the Belgian X-Files, Gladio, the Brabant killings, and more. Now, I will say this is this guy's pinned tweet, and it is a super thread. Like, you go through here, and each one of these are like separate topics, so we're not doing the whole thing. We would be here for days. But will be picking through these for the next week or so. But we're going to start off with this one. He has a super thread here. It says, could Julie and Melissa have been saved? The story of dysfunctional Belgian authorities throughout the Dutroux affair. Now, this is the story that kind of kicks it off. That's why in the title it's Dutroux Beginnings. This is what kicks off the Dutroux affair. These are the kids that was kind of like a manhunt at the time from my recollection. But we're going to go into that, focusing on that angle of it. Really fucked up story. But yeah. Let me drink a sip of coffee and we'll get into it. Just a reminder, you guys can leave super chats on Rumble. And if you guys do that, make sure to leave a separate message after it says rant or something like that. That way I'll know, because for some reason it doesn't generate those comments on StreamYard. So I have to manually go to Rumble for that. But all right, let's get into it. Could Julie and Melissa have been saved? The case that started the Dutroux affair back in June 95 lasted for 14 months before the discovery of the bodies in August 96. The parents have always believed the police didn't do what was necessary to get them back home alive. So here's a picture of the kids. They're 8 years old. It's fucked up. Here's some pictures. Family. All right, cool. Let's move on. He says, I'm basing this thread on a 2004 Belgian documentary on the gray areas of the Dutroux affair, as well as a few newspaper articles I'll link at the end of the thread. The documentary is hosted on Melissa Russo's parents' YouTube channel, and they added notes throughout to complete it. It's quite long, so bear with me. I'll start by talking about a suspicious vehicle, a red Ford Fiesta MK3, that was reported to the police numerous times, popping up at various places that could have belonged to Dutroux and his accomplices. There were quite a few witnesses and testimonies from Grace Halone where the kidnapping of Julie and Melissa took place, but only 4 testimonies were kept out of 20. The kidnapping probably took place somewhere between that roundabout and the bridge crossing the highway. One person alleges that she saw someone come out of the bushes before the bridge without even a composite sketch being drawn. 8 witnesses claim to have seen suspicious activity from a red Ford Fiesta in the neighborhood around June 24th, which is when the girls went missing. So you can see pictured here the composite sketch, which kind of looks like a semi-generic, pretty, what Anglican or whatever you call it, the normal, pretty generic white look, whatever that is that you call it. And, I don't know, I guess it could have been some sort of ethnicity, but just looking at that, I don't know, I kind of see a generic kind of white build. The eyes are a little squinty, but I don't know. 2 testimonies about a red car are particularly interesting. Jean-Paul Hardy, a doctor from Liège, writes a letter to the police telling them about a red car in a van parked on the side of the highway at the Grace Halone exit near the bridge at 11:30 on June 24th. They didn't seem to be broken down. The 2 drivers of the vehicles were talking. The brown van had a French license plate and the red car a Belgian one, starting with either NKVO or NVKO. He even made a sketch for the police detailing what he saw that morning. So here's a sketch of just kind of people 2 stopped along a road or wherever, talking. The kidnapping took place around 5:30. So what time was this supposed to start? Let me see. Let's back up. See what the time this. So 11:30 a.m. They were parked, and at 5. Okay, 6 hours. Okay, so that doesn't mean too much. Kidnapping took place around 5:30 p.m. with a sketch and testimony placing these 2 suspicious cars somewhere near where it took place earlier that afternoon at 11:30. Here's a translated version of that sketch. There's one very interesting detail about the license plate. The NVKO, the NKVO, yep. The doctor swears it started with NKV or NVK. Okay, so now we're seeing a little bit of crossover there. According to retired gendarme Jean-Pierre Adam, around 95, Dutroux was hanging out with Pierre Rochow, as seen here, and his girlfriend, Benedict Jadot. The couple owned a red Fiesta, one that had the license plate NKV 947. Roche and Jadot were part of Dutroux Courcel's gang. Dutroux's Courcel's gang. I guess he had a gang called Courcel's. They're the 2 people he and Weinstein, an accomplice, held captive the night of the 4th into the 5th, November 95, believing that they had tricked him in some form about a stolen truck. They're not the only ones with a red Fiesta car. Mike Levier, Dutroux's accomplice, was said to drive one too. Now, was it his own or the same one he shared with a couple, since they were all part of that little gang? Nevertheless, according to the police, he drove one. I'm going to assume, by the way, one of the issues, I think, why we don't get a ton of information about the Dutroux thing on this side of things is so much of it was in Belgium. So, like, they most of it's in a different language. So I think it's probably why we don't get so much in American media is because you need people to go through and, understand Belgium and then translate it. And, I mean, there's sometimes issues with translations. I think when we covered this in a live reading that was like damn near like 15 parts in the show a while ago, there were some things where there were issues with translations just in the investigation. So that completely changed meanings depending on translation. So I think that probably is a big part of it. So I don't know why I felt the need to bring that up right now. But I don't know what I was connecting it to. But either way, here's the guy. I guess supposedly there's another person who drives this type of red Fiesta car too. I find that interesting. I mean, maybe it could be the same car. Maybe there's a slovenly little gang that doesn't have more than one car. But I don't know. It matches up a lot with like what the IRA would do, not the IRA, the ARA would do in the Oklahoma City bombing. The ones who had a part in the Oklahoma City bombing, at least I think so. They would, when they would rob banks, they would have decoy cars. Like they a lot of times would buy two of the same type of car and have decoy cars. So I mean, if you are someone kidnapping children to deliver to trafficking rings, not that crazy that you would have multiple people in the same gang, maybe have the same car, and that way you can see same people coming in and out, and that's why it's almost like a decoy thing. You're like, oh, it's this one, that one. So, yeah. I mean, there's also a big part of the Oklahoma City bombing where people think there were two, myself included, honestly, there were two Ryder trucks. There were two Ryder trucks, so which played a decoy, which a lot of people think that's part of why it went live is they swapped out the trucks, and essentially there was a sting that was supposed to happen, and they were tracking the one truck, and while the other truck is going to go do its dastardly deeds. He had it destroyed soon after the end of 95 at a junkyard belonging to someone named Bruno Tagliaferro. That guy will die on the 5th of November 95, same day Dutroux held captive the couple. By the way, the death list in the Dutroux affair is insane. I read it once on that series, I believe. I think I found it, but no, actually, I took a section out of the Eye of the Chicken Hawk and read it on the show and went through all the deaths in there because they covered it in there. It's wild. Okay, the autopsy led with the help of an FBI lab will reveal he was poisoned with cyanide. He probably knew too much. His wife said she believed he had dirty secrets on his clients and that he realized at some point he was involved in the destruction of the vehicle used to kidnap Julie and Melissa. That made him dangerous in the eyes of Dutroux and his friends. Right. I think it's fair to think that a red Ford Fiesta was involved in some way with either Dutroux or his gang, but that letter sent to the police in September will not be followed through. Why? What's wild here is that there are other testimonies taking place on June 24th too. I can't find sources for this one other than just a slide the Russo parents inserted in the documentary shared on their YouTube channel. So who knows, really? Don't take it as fact, but it's pretty wild. Someone driving a car on a highway to Namur, that's on the route to Charleroi from Grace Helene, on June 24th saw a red Fiesta pulled over. There was a man with two kids. He was being violent with them, including one that was naked, lying on the ground. All right. That witness took the next highway exit, found there was a fire station, and told them what he had just saw. The fireman then told them to go to the local gendarmerie, which they then did. They called the day after the Grace Helene Gendarmerie to check on things, which, for those who don't know what gendarmerie is, it's essentially their police. I think that they were saying it was some sort of military police, so maybe it has something to do with the way their country is structured, and I don't know. Anyways, that's essentially the police. They're the one in charge of the missing girls. They were told their testimony never made it from the local gendarmerie. All right. They went looking for that red Fiesta at the sighting location, but that was 48 hours after the girls had gone missing already. They didn't find anything. Here's another testimony, which is more reliable than the one I've just told. On June 95, two girls named Vanessa and Diana, both around 8 years old, escaped an attempt kidnapping at around 12 a.m. near Ogre. Someone driving a red Ford Fiesta tried to get the little girls inside the car in front of their house. This was apparently the third time he had talked to them. Mom struggled to get both of them out, including the younger one who was already seated inside. Jeez, can you imagine what a nightmare that'd be? Ogre is only a few kilometers away from Grace Helene, which makes it possible and highly likely for the red Fiesta car to be at 11:30 at GH and around 12 at Eau Gris via the highway. Those are the details and testimonies that the police could have used but never did, and you almost never hear of these in recollections of the investigation. The fact that a very precise type of car comes up in so many testimonies is something that should have been looked into. Was the gendarmerie totally incompetent, or was this cover-up? All those testimonies were regarded as not worthy of looking into, and the few policemen who tried were not taken seriously or straight up accused of things like forgery. You be the judge. I could extend this thread even more with the first search of Dutroux's house by René Michaud in December 95, hearing voices and finding incriminating tapes and objects but not acting on it. Let me know if someone's interested. Okay, never mind. I guess they are getting to that. I'm surprised they wouldn't get into that. It sounds like he then extended his thread later. So he started out with just the red Ford Fiesta, because, yeah, I thought that's actually where we were going, because I remember that. That's fucked up. All right, let's keep going. Here's the documentary he shares. I guess you could call this part 2 of the thread. If the first part was about how the early investigation was butchered, this one is going to be on how there was evidence the police knew where the girls were being kept and never acted on it, letting them starve to death. Based on the same documentary and other newspaper articles, which I'll link at the end as well, I'll sometimes refer to the girls as J, Julie, and M, Melissa, to make the most of the 280 characters. On June 7th, 95, 13 days after the kidnapping of Julie and Melissa, Charleroi gendarmerie points out a potential suspect, Marc Dutroux. Charleroi sends a fax to Grace Hollone's gendarmerie, alerting them of someone who had previously been charged with raping 7 children in 86. Hard to find information about 7 previous victims, other than he was picking them off the streets around 83 to 85, filming them and taking pictures, raping them, then letting them go. He was held by accomplices in the kidnapping and in ordering the girls around to pose for pics. One girl will say that afterwards he offered her fruit juice, praline chocolates, and he gave her 500 francs to go to the doctor and get a sick note for her school. He said he was doing this to her because of her dad, who was not being square with him. Dutroux will get a 13-year sentence in 86, but he'll go out on conditional release in 92, at around half of his sentence. So this guy did 6 years for all that. How was that allowed? The prison director was against it. Melchior Wathelet, Minister of Justice at the time, was the one to accept his request. You might think this sounds weird. There's even more questions raised when Wathelet is accused of being part of the peddle ring linked to Dutroux through Nihul by both Regina Louf, X1, who's the first person in the X dossier, which many of you may not know about. This is a dossier that came out later. Essentially, the first group of investigators essentially all got shit-canned when the main judge, they essentially set out a conflict of interest and they threw it out. And that's the one with all the crazy stuff. Essentially, the cover-up is what was trying to get rid of the X dossier stuff. The X dossier stuff leaked to the internet. Most people say WikiLeaks, but the article I read before said it was somebody else. I don't fucking know. But either way, it got leaked, and then I guess then WikiLeaks either wasn't the first one or then after released it. But the X dossier got leaked out to the public later, and that's how we know a lot of this shit. It's kind of the dossier of all this stuff the investigators threw together in their work, all the different interviews and such. You may think, okay. By both and a child psychologist during the X dossier's investigation in 96. All right, let's keep going. Come on. The X dossiers deserve their own thread, and a lot of people have talked about them already. I plan on reading Regina Louf's book about them, which that's X1. I guess she writes a book at some point about them this summer. Maybe I'll read a thread about the book. Well, hopefully, maybe there is a thread. This thread is from 2022, so maybe, I don't know, there's probably a lot for us to pick through in future morning dumps. Charleroy's gendarmerie also said he owned multiple cars and trucks, was the owner of at least 5 houses, actually closer to 10, and that in 93, police informant Thoreau, part of the Corsoulis gang, alerted the gendarmerie about him building caches to keep children in, then send them in foreign countries. He's out of prison in April 92 on conditional release, starts building them in his Marchienne and Marcinelle house. Thoreau found out because he was working on Dutroux's house with him. Okay. Still in 92, the Charleroi police suspects him of sexual assault on teens at a local ice skating rink. He'll be questioned and they'll let him go. But it's not all about Thoreau's reports on Dutroux throughout the years. Thoreau also reported to the gendarmerie that Dutroux saw 2 young girls as both were leaving a local fair at Yves Gomezi in 93 and asked Thoreau, "Are you interested in making 1,500 francs or 150,000 francs?" And then detailed how they could kidnap those 2 girls and sell them. I'm going to look up what that is. how much 150 francs is, because I'm curious. What does that mean? Let me see. Second. See, US dollars. Oh shit, that's $166,500. So basically $170,000. Okay, not bad. Okay, Jesus. And then detailed how they could kidnap those 2 girls and sell them. Holy shit! So they're talking about making $170,000. Okay, I mean that would be the kind of money that you're talking about to do that sort of thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't do that. That's awful, but I could totally see how there would be criminals willing to do so. Thoreau refused. Dutroux insisted, explaining his technique, grabbing them from behind, putting his hand on their mouth, then putting them in the car and knocking them out if necessary. He said it was easy money, called Thoreau a coward for not doing it. Dutroux tells Thoreau June 20th, 95 that he's about to pull off a big hit. Then no news. Then J and M are kidnapped. Thoreau meets Pettins, his referent at the gendarmerie, on June 4th. So to back up, this Thoreau guy, I guess, was an informant, and I don't know what a referent is. I'm assuming that means the guy he goes to, he's a contact, I guess, is probably what they would call it. Asking if Dutroux could be behind this. No action will be taken until July 7th, 95, and the facts. Okay, so then Thoreau himself goes to the gendarmerie to tell them, asking if Dutroux could be behind this kidnapping. And this is a guy who's kind of looks like somewhat informing on Dutroux. And this is a guy that's already been talking about literally kidnapping children for almost basically in the realm of sub $200,000. Wild shit. And then they didn't act on it at all. They didn't. So it's quite clear that Dutroux is known by the local authorities. So it makes sense to consider him for J and M's kidnapping. Christophe Peetens is the one in charge of managing Thoreau, and his superior sends the facts to John Lesage, in charge of J&M and Grace Elon. I mean, it's kind of wild to think about that they would have an informant watching Dutroux. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because I'm assuming a lot of you guys know a lot of the story. There are a lot of people who are implicated in this that were within the gendarmerie or these sort of organizations. So it's kind of wild to think about that there is an informant on Dutroux, someone part of this group. It almost makes you think as if the informant is more of a purpose of keeping an eye on one of their assets for their crazy trafficking ring, as opposed to actually for crime. So that way, if he does speak out or something, then it's that information then reaches them. Obviously, I mean, it seems like Thoreau didn't seem to know that. I mean, obviously, I think there's levels to this, and I'm not even saying that is the case. I just find it interesting to think about, when the degree to what this entity was infiltrated, but then while also having an informant on Dutroux. Kind of weird. I just thought that was interesting. Christophe Peetens is the one in charge of managing Thoreau, and his superior sends the facts to Jan Lesage, in charge of J&M and Grace Helome. Thoreau refers to Pettins as informant, and then Pettins talks about it to his superior Rene Michaud, who sends the facts about Dutroux on July 7th to Jean Lesage. Lesage never talks about Dutroux to the judge in charge of the case, in Liege Grace Helone, Martine Dutroux. But both Lesage and Michaud will report about Dutroux to the BSR, the Surveillance and Research Unit of the Gendarmerie. That pretty much highlights the highly suspicious behavior of the Gendarmerie through his investigation, gatekeeping crucial informations about Liege. Let's get this straight. At this point in July, Dutroux is the number one suspect in the Julie and Melissa case. Then how is it possible that he gets to kidnap more girls, On and Yves first, than Letitia and Sabine? Is no one keeping an eye on his moves? There's not enough evidence to arrest him, says Peeton to Thoreau. But how is the number one suspect in a child kidnapping case able to kidnap even more girls, keeping them in his house for weeks and months without notice? Are some elements of the gendarmerie covering for him? Starting in August 95, the Charleroi Gendarmerie, led by Rene Michaud, starts a special operation named Othello. It is a surveillance operation focused on the Marcinelle house to verify the claims that Dutroux is involved in child trafficking and the Julie and Melissa case. Sounds grand. The reality is they observed the house a total of 6 times, mostly at day, while Dutroux was known to act during nighttime. The house was observed on August 28th and 29th, on the 8th and 19th of September, and on the 13th and 16th of September. That operation will lead to nothing. Meanwhile, Dutroux kept upmost of 4 girls in that house at the same time. Julie and Melissa in the basement, and On and Yves upstairs. How did they not notice anything suspect at all? They were even attempted escapes from the girls. Yves, 2 days after arriving at Marcinelle, tried to escape twice and even succeeded once, getting on a small roof behind the house. During Othello, a witness claimed to have seen Melissa in front of the house, but the gendarmerie never followed up on it. That's not the only Melissa sighting. On November 4th, 95, Valère Martin, working for the Grace Helene Gendarmerie, tells Melissa's uncle that they've located one of the girls, not saying who it was at first and not in front of the parents. They had also located the predator. The predator is a guy who was being paid 150,000 francs to kidnap girls. So as we figured out earlier in the thread, they're going with what Thoreau said to them, and they know it's Dutroux. Why on earth aren't they acting? Raiding his house, freeing the girls. Martin tells the family that Dutroux was just A in a network, and they were trying to get B, C, and D, making the family believe they're trying to pull some kind of network from up to down. They later confirmed to the families it was Melissa they saw. It's fucked up. I don't know. This story does kind of fucking get to me because you like all the families, and you're thinking they're helping them, and like, all right. He also said that they couldn't just act on it right away because they didn't know if the other girl was in there with her, and that if she wasn't, she'd surely be killed in revenge for Melissa being free, ruining the chances of pulling the whole network too. They told Melissa's family, "Be ready. The girls would be back home for Christmas," and they weren't. Othello had the effect of getting all other kinds of police off Dutroux, making the Charleroi Gendarmerie be the one in charge of finding evidence linking him to J&M. So this Operation Othello, to sum up, essentially, like it gave this idea that we're doing this grand surveillance on Dutroux. In reality, they didn't really do anything, and because they made this grand gesture, essentially caused all other police resources to back off because they know they have this other big operation already going on. And they were struggling, certainly from high incompetence and probably because of the will to cover up. It's on November 4th, too, that Dutroux helps captive Rochot and Jadot, the crime for which will go back into jail in December 6, 95 until March 20, 96. Okay, so I forget. Yeah, he goes to jail during this period of time, and there's still kids missing. So that's when René Michaud finally acts. He gets a search warrant on the 13th of December while Dutroux's in jail to search his Marcinelle house. A search that will deliver one of the case's most chilling details, and it is. He gets in the house early morning on the 13th of December, 95. It's probably freezing outside. December that year had 22 days below 0 Celsius. Michaud and his crew make their way through the house. Pictures here, not from that search warrant, but same house, down to the basement. So we can look at the house here, for those who are interested. Okay. I mean, not really anything of substance to take from here, but hey, we get to see the house. That's when he'll hear children talking, whispering. He asks his crew to stop talking, but he doesn't hear them again. He got that warrant off the truck investigation, but that got Dutroux jail time, but he's in there looking for caches where the children could be. He says he'll say he believes the voices were coming from outside, on the street, on a Wednesday morning when the children are at school in freezing cold December, when they know at least Melissa could be in there, when they're looking for caches on the informant Thoreau's tip. Caches, my bad. Those voices were probably Julie and Melissa, freezing in that cache, believing that Dutroux was the one who told them to stop talking, which they did. Well, they left out I don't know if they left out the detail, told them to stop talking. I think he left out the detail. I know this is I don't know where like the to get confirmation on this, the source. But I remember Austin talking about it. I think he's referring to this in this thread, and maybe he thought he was referring to it. Because the idea of I'm sorry, I actually scrolled past it. Who told them to stop talking, in which they did. So he didn't mention in the thread something about stop talking. There was once again, I don't know the exact source of this, so I mean it's not in this thread. So maybe in the sources at the end of this thread. But supposedly I don't know if it was supposed to be not Dutroux. Was this Michaud? Michaud, I think is the name of the investigator. Let me see, actually scroll up real quick. René Michaud, I believe either him or one of the other investigators supposedly said silence, and like when the voices were talking, and then they stopped talking, and then the kids stopped talking too. So, which I guess they said, you know, in this he kind of says they probably believed it was Dutroux. They said to shut up, which makes sense if Dutroux was considering the kind of monster Dutroux is. Oh crap! Sorry, I accidentally clicked on something and screwed it all up. All right, here we go. Is Michaud using his brain? He doesn't even feel the empty walls around the hidden cache, which were recently worked on to accommodate it. What is this for a search? How is it still possible? How could someone make a mistake this big? It's just awful cover-up. Truly are awful. Or cover-up or not. The day the search takes place, Michaud and his team will take from the house the following: a vaginal speculum, vaginal cream, some chains, and around 100 VHS tapes. Number isn't clear. All those objects are obviously suspect, but the tapes were the most incriminating evidence. So they got a vaginal speculum, vaginal cream, chains, and 100 VHS tapes from the search. They get sent to Brussels at the BSR. After reviewing, they all get sent back to Dutroux when he gets out of jail in March 1996. Nothing suspect on them according to the gendarmerie, even though TV shows about the missing girls case were literally recorded on them. That's just a coincidence, right? In 99, a cop rewatches the 3 tapes kept at the BSR and watches them till the end. That's when he notices at the end of one of them, there's a rape scene of a young sleeping Slovak girl filmed and raped by Dutroux in June 95. If you didn't know, it's almost certain that Dutroux was traveling to Slovakia in the 90s for human and child trafficking, bringing back women for knee holes, prostitution, and pedo rings. Lever will admit that when they both went to Topolcani multiple times to get girls. On another tape, there's footage of Dutroux working on the cache being finished. It doesn't show work in the basement, but rather on top where he's finishing the air vent for the cache. By the way, for those who didn't pick up on context or just don't know by the word, cache is usually it's weird they're using in this situation because it's technically just like a spot to hold things. But when I think of it, I usually think of like weapons, like a spot to like keep weapons. But no, I guess it's for people. So they're just meaning like essentially this is some sort of like dungeon. They've been referred to usually as a dungeon and other things. I guess maybe cache might be more accurate because maybe dungeon's not the best way to put it. Essentially just kind of found a way in his home to kind of make an area to store people. All right. It doesn't show work in the basement, but rather on top where he's finishing the air vent for the cache. If anyone had acted on it in 95, maybe that cache could have been found months before. Those tapes were never used in 95. Dutroux leaves Julie and Melissa dying in his house while he's in jail. They're dead by the time he comes out. Before going to jail, he had already went ahead and killed Alan and Yves. He then successfully captured 2 more girls, Letitia and Sabine. They will both make it out alive and found the Marcinelle house. In the cache, because a witness saw a suspicious van in Bertrix where Letitia was kidnapped, and upon investigation, it belonged to Dutroux. He was arrested on August 13th, 96. Could Julie and Melissa have been saved? Yes, multiple times, but it certainly seems the gendarmerie didn't want to. Why? Was Dutroux protected? Was it because he worked for Nihul, who had orgies with Belgium's elite and was running a pedo blackmail ring? All right, that's the end of the thread. So we'll probably pick at another one of these threads here soon. This is messed up stuff. So I warned you guys. But let's run through chat before we get out of here. I'll say bye to y'all. See what you guys had to say. Absolute bad shit crazy from Boba, 100%. Gotta bail. See you, black eye. Let me see. Thank you for your erts. I appreciate you. Do you guys have any videos on the fastest operation that's ever happened? Michael's favorite? I don't know what you're talking about. Unless you're referring to... Actually, I don't know what you're referring to. I've also thought they were referring to... Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. I'm just saying... Maybe you guys are just talking in the chat. I was just trying if there's anything worthwhile in here. What kind of coffee you drinking? Somebody said probably Fox and Sons nuts. I don't even know what it is. By the way, Fox and Sons is delicious, but they don't sponsor the show anymore, so I don't get the free coffee anymore. All right. I guess I'm gonna get out of here. I think you guys did talk a bunch, but it's all stuff to you guys. So just see if there's anything in there. Jose, it's probably the training. That's why you associate cache squarely with firearms. Perhaps I don't. Every time I always hear even like parapolitical talks, it's always usually in reference to like some sort of like gun or something. Are you going into the dark colonial past in Africa? I feel like it's linked. Probably, but we're probably staying in like in Dutroux stuff right now. Maybe in the future we will. Somnambulism, I see you just dropped some sort of link to something. I mean, we're finishing. I'm trying to get out of here. What is this? Let me see. DC crash sinks. Oh, this is 12 minutes long. We're not watching the show. Okay, maybe you're just sharing that for somebody else. All right, we're going to get out of here. Well, I appreciate all of you. Let me make sure there's no Rumble chats, nothing like that. All right, cool. Well, everyone, thanks for joining me today. It was fun. Pop in tomorrow. I should be doing this again tomorrow. Same time, same place. Who knows? Maybe Austin will join us tomorrow. We'll see. He's still crunching on his episode. Man, that episode is getting away from him. He just gets too sucked in, man. But all right, let's get out of here. But I do want to remind you guys before we get out of here, if you want to support what I'm doing, you can do that over patreon.com/nowayjose2020. The lowest level is $2. That's where you get early access to the episodes, which, speaking of which, I forgot to say at the beginning, apology to my patrons. Last night, my wife's flight got rescheduled. And then on top of that, the guest, was like, I don't really have that great of notes right now anyway, so we should probably wait. So we didn't do the Vegas shooting episode last night, but I do have Richard Booth and Jonathan Franklin coming on the show on Thursday to do like a big OKC panel. And I'll likely do, I haven't scheduled it yet, but we'll probably do the Vegas one probably on Sunday or something. So we'll begin 2 this week. So you won't get the one episode going public, but for patrons, that means you're going to get probably 2 behind the paywall this week. And I think in the future, I might start trying to do 2 a week. And maybe I'll get to at least a point where that way, like 2, I have like a backup. So then in case like if I miss this or have to reschedule or something, then oh no, we only do 1 that week. Because I don't like the idea of giving you guys nothing. So I think I might start recording 2 a week. And then maybe eventually, once we have enough of a what's it called? Archive? I don't know. Once we have like multiple episodes and behind the paywall, then we'll start leaking them out. So that way I can get some behind it. For that way it gives me an allowance for when I like miss days or have to reschedule or whatever. And then eventually we'll have enough backed up and be doing it twice a week. So I don't know, we'll see. I just had another day essentially open up for me. But also to remind you guys, the $2 level, you guys can get the ad-free RSS feed. You also can be a talking head on Already Dead, which tomorrow we have William Ramsey coming back on, and but we have Austin too. So it'll be me, Austin, and William Ramsey. So which I think it'll be great, especially considering our last conversation with William Ramsey. That should be a fun one, and we kind of get to jump off of that conversation and go into other weird areas. But yeah, with that, also the highest levels of my sponsors, I'll read them off every episode. My co-host and Tower Gang at Tower Gang Toad, also have at Abrogate D's, at ZOVRACK, at _Infinite Zeal. Also have Tim Tuttle, at John Klebold, and Will Bell's Delicious Rabbit Eye Wine. Big fan of the show, Torn May, and at INWARD Lover. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. If you're watching, wherever you're watching this, please leave a like. Helps out a lot. If you're listening to this, go leave a 5-star review. Helps out a ton. You guys are letting Austin beat me right now. It's not cool. Let's make this a close race. Go leave me some 5-star reviews, please. Leave him some too, but do more for me. But with that, we are out of here. Follow me at Twitter at TowerGangJose. It's also the best place to tag me if there's stuff you want me to bring up on the show. I'm pretty responsive to you guys. I'd say roughly in the realm of like 90% of the time. I bring it on. But with that, let's get out of here. See you guys. It was a pretty good one. I had fun. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Deuces. Oh, almost lips. There you go.